That cursed mongrel resembles its owner, wild and belonging nowhere. Officer Brenner scoffed as his patrol vehicle coasted down Oak Haven Drive, the sunlight reflecting off the pristine white fencing. In his eyes, the small black girl wearing a red hooded sweatshirt did not fit into this scenery. She was simply a trouble magnet waiting to activate. When her German shepherd, Shadow, let out a single bark in defense, Brenner squeezed the trigger without a second thought. The canine collapsed. Arya Daniels fell to her knees, tears streaming down her cheeks, and with trembling hands aimed her mother's firearm at the law enforcement officers. Little did Brenner realize that the girl's mother, FBI Special Agent Renee Daniels, was already speeding toward the house, prepared to dismantle their lives for their actions. Before we proceed, please comment with your viewing location and subscribe, as tomorrow offers a narrative you will not want to miss. The late afternoon sun cast elongated shadows across the meticulously manicured lawns. 9-year-old Arya Daniels threw a vibrant yellow tennis ball, observing it arc through the golden light of evening. Shadow, her German shepherd, chased after it, with the singular focus only a canine could possess. "Good boy," Arya cheered as Shadow retrieved the toy, his tail wagging with unadulterated delight. The dog's dark coat shone, and his eyes glistened with intellect as he deposited the saliva-covered ball at her feet. This yard was her sanctuary, a place where memories of playing fetch with her father still remained. Shadow had been his final gift to her prior to the accident. Now these twilight games were sacred, just her and Shadow, while her mother worked late at the FBI bureau in Atlanta. The police cruiser moved slowly past like a shark testing the waters. Arya observed it but continued her game, accustomed to police patrolling their affluent neighborhood. However, this time, the vehicle halted. 2 officers emerged, their boots crunching on the perfectly kept grass. "Hey, you there!" the senior officer shouted sharply. His nameplate identified him as Brenner. His partner, younger and looking anxious, remained slightly behind. Arya froze, the tennis ball remaining in her grip. Shadow sat beside her, vigilant yet composed. "What is your business on this property?" Officer Brenner demanded, his hand resting casually on his holster. "I reside here," Arya stated, her voice diminutive but distinct. "This is my home." "I am sure you do," Brenner mocked, taking another step closer. "We received a report regarding a suspicious individual, so I will need to see some identification." "I am 9, Arya replied, her heart starting to pound. "I do not possess identification, but this is my house." "Listen closely," Brenner interrupted, his tone hardening. "We do not require any attitude, so step away from the canine." Shadow's ears pinned back against his skull. A low growl vibrated in his chest as the officer approached Arya. "Shadow." "No," Arya whispered. Yet her loyal guardian stood firm. The dog's hackles raised as Brenner reached for his sidearm. "Call off your animal," Brenner yelled, drawing his weapon. His partner, Clay, did the same with trembling hands. "He is not doing anything wrong," Arya cried out, tears beginning to fall. "Please, we are simply playing fetch. This is my yard." Shadow barked now, not with aggression, but protection, positioning himself between Arya and the encroaching officers. The noise reverberated across the groomed lawns as neighbors began emerging onto porches with phones held high. Final warning, Brenner's face contorted with malice. "Control that animal." "Shadow, come," Arya began to say, but the words died in her throat as 3 gunshots cracked through the evening atmosphere. Shadow yelped, a noise that would haunt Arya's nightmares eternally. The German shepherd stumbled, crimson blooming across his dark coat. His legs failed, and he collapsed onto the grass he had played upon just seconds earlier. "No." The scream ripped from Arya's throat as she fell to her knees beside Shadow. The tennis ball rolled away, neglected. "Shadow, please." The dog's respiration came in wet, ragged gasps. His tail offered one last feeble wag as Arya pressed her small hands against his injuries, blood seeping between her fingers. "Stay back," Brenner shouted, his gun still aimed at them. "Get away from the dog." Arya could not hear him over the roaring in her ears. Shadow's eyes, usually so bright and affectionate, began to dim. His head felt heavy in her lap as tears poured down her face. "Why?" she sobbed. her voice fracturing. He was not doing anything wrong. He was protecting me. I said retreat, Brenner barked, taking an aggressive step forward. His partner looked nauseous, his gun wavering. Arya's universe narrowed to Shadow's fading heartbeat beneath her hands. Her best friend, her guardian, her final link to her father, bleeding out on their own lawn because a police officer became frightened of a barking dog. The rage arrived then, rising through her sorrow like a tidal wave. It burned away her tears and straightened her spine. She looked up at Officer Brenner, this man who had just shattered her world, and felt something solid and cold settle in her chest. You killed him, she stated, her voice eerily tranquil now. You murdered my dog. The animal was aggressive, Brenner attempted to justify, but Arya's sharp laugh cut him off. He was protecting me from you. Her voice escalated, drawing more neighbors out to witness. You are the ones who entered my yard with guns. Watch your tone, girl, Brenner growled. But Arya was beyond terror now. You killed him. You killed Shadow. She screamed it now, her small frame shaking with fury and grief. He was mine. He was all I had left of my daddy. Shadow's blood was warm on her hands, soaking into her jeans. The setting sun caught the badge on Brenner's chest, making it shine like fool's gold. More patrol cars were approaching in the distance, sirens wailing. On your feet now, Brenner commanded, his face red with indignation at being challenged by a child. However, Arya remained where she was, cradling Shadow's head in her lap, her mother's words echoing in her mind. Never let bullies see you break. So she held her ground, her tears drying to salt on her cheeks as the last of Shadow's life slipped away under her trembling hands. I am not moving, she declared, her voice raw but steady. You will have to shoot me too. The rage and grief swirled inside Arya like a storm. Shadow's body grew colder in her lap, his fur still wet with blood. Her hands trembled as she stroked his head one last time, recalling how he would always sleep beside her bed, keeping the nightmares away after Dad died. Get up. Final warning. Brenner's voice cracked like a whip through the evening air. His partner Clay kept glancing nervously at the expanding crowd of neighbors, their phones recording everything. Arya's eyes landed on the space beneath their wraparound porch. There, concealed behind loose boards, was where Mom kept her old backup firearm from her field days. Arya was not supposed to know about it, but she had seen Mom check on it sometimes late at night, ensuring it was still there, just in case. This felt like a just-in-case moment. Moving slowly, Arya eased Shadow's head onto the grass. Her heart pounded so hard she could barely hear the officers shouting. The loose board was right there, merely a few feet away. The cops were too busy yelling at the crowd to stay back to notice her inching toward it. Do not move, Clay called out, but his voice wavered. He did not sound nearly as convinced as his partner. Arya's fingers found the edge of the board. Quick as a snake, she reached into the dark space beneath. Her hand closed around cold metal, just like when Mom had shown her at the range last summer. Knowledge is safety, Mom had said. Respect the weapon, but never fear it. The gun felt heavier than she remembered as she pulled it out. Everything seemed to decelerate like moving through water. She could hear her own breathing, too fast and shallow. Shadow's blood was drying on her hands, making the grip sticky. Gun, Brenner shouted, his voice hitting a new pitch of panic. Drop it, drop the weapon. But Arya was already on her feet. The pistol pointed straight at Brenner's chest. Her arms shook, but she remembered Mom's lessons. Feet planted, both hands on the grip, finger alongside the trigger guard until you're ready to shoot. She's just a kid, someone in the crowd yelled. Put your guns down. Back away, Clay shouted at the onlookers, his own weapon wavering between Arya and the growing crowd. Everyone back up. Arya's world narrowed to the sight of Officer Brenner's face down the barrel of her mom's gun. He was not so tough now. His eyes were wide, darting between her face and the weapon. She saw fear there, and it felt good. Why did you kill my dog? Arya demanded, her voice ringing out clear and strong despite her tears. He was not doing anything wrong. Put the gun down, girl, Brenner said, trying to sound authoritative but failing to hide the tremor in his voice. You do not want to make this worse. Worse? Arya laughed, a harsh sound that did not belong in a child's throat. You killed my best friend. You came into my yard and murdered him. How could it get worse? More patrol cars were approaching, their sirens wailing in the distance, getting closer. The sound made Arya's hands shake harder, but she kept the gun up. Mom's words echoed in her head. Stand your ground when you are right. Never let them see weakness. Look around you, Clay tried, gesturing at the phones recording everything. This is not going to end well. Just put it down. It did not end well for Shadow, Arya shot back. Tears streamed down her face, but her voice stayed steady. He was protecting me. That is all he ever did, and you shot him for it. The evening had turned surreal. Neighbors crowded their porches and lawns, dozens of phones capturing every moment. The setting sun cast long shadows across the blood-stained grass where Shadow lay. Red and blue lights began to flash against house windows as backup units approached. Last chance, Brenner growled, his finger tightening on his trigger. Drop the weapon or I will fire. You will shoot me like you shot my dog. Arya's finger moved to the trigger, mimicking his motion. Go ahead. Show everyone what kind of cop you are. Shoot another innocent person on camera. The crowd had grown larger. Voices called out, some telling Arya to put the gun down, others shouting at the officers to stand down. The chaos swirled around her, but Arya remained focused, just like Mom taught her. The gun stayed pointed at Brenner's chest. Why did you kill my dog? She screamed at this time, raw pain tearing through her voice. Answer me. Why? Brenner's face twisted with rage at being challenged by a child. That mongrel was aggressive. He was protecting me. Arya's finger pressed slightly on the trigger. From you. You are the ones who came here with guns. You are the ones who scared him. Sirens screamed closer now, multiple units converging on their quiet suburban street. The red and blue lights painted everything in alternating colors, making the scene feel even more unreal. Shadow's blood looked black in the strobing lights. Drop it now, Brenner shouted, his composure cracking. Final warning. But Arya stood her ground, her small frame rigid with determination despite her trembling hands. The gun stayed up, pointed straight at the man who had destroyed her world with 3 shots. No, she said simply, her voice carrying across the suddenly quiet yard. You drop yours. The standoff held, frozen in the chaos of flashing lights and gathering crowds. A child and 2 cops, 3 guns raised while a dead dog lay bleeding on a perfectly manicured lawn. Backup units screeched to a halt at the end of the street, adding to the bedlam. At the Atlanta FBI field office, Renee Daniels sat across from a sweating drug trafficker, her steady gaze making him fidget. The interrogation room's fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows across his face as she methodically dismantled his alibi. So you were not in Savannah last Tuesday? Renee's voice remained calm, professional. Because we have footage of your car at the port. Want to explain that? The suspect opened his mouth to respond when her phone buzzed. She ignored it, standard procedure during questioning, but then it buzzed again and again. Something cold settled in her stomach. The interrogation room door burst open. Agent Daniels, her colleague Thompson's face was ash white. You need to hear this. She was already standing, recognizing the urgency in his tone. The suspect forgotten, she followed Thompson to the dispatch monitoring station. Other agents parted as she approached, their faces grim. The dispatcher's voice crackled through the speakers, shaking. All units be advised, situation at 1247 Oak Haven Drive. Reports of a minor with a firearm. Officers on scene report the minor is holding them at gunpoint after an officer-involved shooting of a dog. Subject is, the dispatcher's voice caught, subject is approximately 9 years old. Renee's world tilted sideways. Her address, her daughter's age. The room spun as the words officer-involved shooting echoed in her head. That is my house, she whispered. Then louder. That is my daughter. She was moving before anyone could respond, snatching her keys from her desk. Her footsteps thundered down the hallway, agents calling after her. Protocol dictated she stay clear. This was a local matter, a conflict of interest. Protocol could go to hell. Renee, wait. Thompson caught up to her at the elevator. Let local PD handle this. They are the ones pointing guns at my baby. The elevator was not coming fast enough. She sprinted for the stairs, taking them 3 at a time. Her FBI-issued SUV roared to life, lights flashing as she peeled out of the parking garage. Traffic parted before her like water, but not fast enough. Never fast enough. Every red light felt like an eternity. Memories crashed through her mind as she weaved through cars. Arya's first steps taken while clutching Shadow's fur. Her husband's funeral, where 9-month-old Arya had slept through the gunshots of the honor guard. Teaching Arya to shoot last summer, carefully explaining that weapons were for protection, never aggression. Shadow had been John's last gift to Arya before his final deployment. To keep my girls safe, he had said. Now Shadow was dead, and Arya was surrounded by cops with guns. Renee grabbed her phone, dialing the local precinct. No answer. She tried dispatch. Busy signal. Her knuckles went white on the steering wheel as she pushed the SUV faster. Please, she whispered to no one. Please let me get there in time. More memories flooded in. Arya crying through nightmares after John died, only calming when Shadow climbed into her bed. The day Renee caught them sharing ice cream cones in the backyard, both looking equally guilty. Shadow standing guard by the front door every morning until Arya's school bus arrived. A truck blocked the left lane. Renee swerved onto the shoulder, ignoring the blaring horns. The GPS showed 8 minutes to home. Too long. She flipped on the siren, pushing the engine harder. Her phone rang. Assistant Director Carson. She ignored it. Another call. Thompson. Ignored. Nothing mattered except getting to Arya. 6 minutes out. Renee's training screamed at her to slow down, to think tactically. But this was not a tactical situation. This was her daughter, her baby, facing down police officers who had already killed once today. She could picture it too clearly. Arya, small and fierce like her father, standing her ground. The same determination that got her through John's death now putting her in deadly danger. Renee had taught her to be strong, to never back down from bullies. Had those lessons just armed her daughter for a suicide mission? 4 minutes. Renee blew through another red light, cars screeching to a halt around her. The suburban streets of their neighborhood flew past in a blur. 2 minutes. She could hear multiple sirens ahead. The sound sent ice through her veins. How many guns were pointed at her little girl? The SUV's tires squealed as Renee took the final turn onto Oak Haven Drive. Gravel sprayed from her wheels as she accelerated down the peaceful suburban street that had become a war zone. Red and blue lights strobed against manicured lawns and perfect houses. Her headlights illuminated the scene in stark detail. Arya standing straight-backed in their front yard. John's stance in miniature. A pistol. Renee's old backup piece, steady in her small hands. 2 uniformed officers with weapons drawn facing her. More police creating a perimeter. A crowd of neighbors with phones raised. And on the blood-stained grass between them all, shadows still form. Renee's SUV skidded to a halt. The moment stretched like glass about to shatter. Her daughter, her whole world, surrounded by men with guns. Men who had already proven they would shoot first and justify later. Renee exploded from the SUV, her FBI badge held high above her head. The metal caught the red and blue strobes as she shouted, "Federal agent, lower your weapons now." Her voice carried the full weight of federal authority, but the local officers did not flinch. They kept their guns trained on Arya, who stood trembling but defiant. Renee's heart stopped as she saw an officer's finger tightening on his trigger. I said, "Stand down." She advanced, badge still raised. "I am Special Agent Renee Daniels, FBI. That is my daughter, and you are on my property." Officer Breen barked over his shoulder without taking his aim off Arya. "Stay back. This subject is armed and dangerous." "She is 9 years old." Renee's fury made her voice shake. "And you just murdered her dog." Before she could close the distance, Officer Clay lunged forward. He knocked Arya to the ground, her small body hitting the grass hard. The hidden pistol skittered away as she cried out in pain. Something primal roared to life in Renee's chest. The sound of her child in distress ignited every protective instinct she possessed. She crossed the yard in 3 long strides. Officer Brenner started to turn, but she was already moving. Years of FBI combat training took over as she grabbed his gun arm, twisting it behind his back. Her shoulder drove into his kidney, and he folded with a grunt of surprise. They hit the ground together, Renee maintaining perfect control of his arm. "You like hurting children," she snarled. driving her knee into his back. How about someone your own size? Brenna struggled, but Renee had him pinned with textbook precision. She yanked his handcuffs from his belt and slapped them onto his wrists, cinching them tight enough to bite. You are under arrest for excessive force against a minor, criminal trespassing, and animal cruelty. You cannot, Brenna started to protest, but Renee drove her knee harder into his spine. Watch me. Movement caught her eye, another officer raising his weapon at her. Renee's hand flew to her sidearm, drawing with the smooth efficiency that had earned her top marks at Quantico. Do not, she warned, her aim rock steady. I have federal jurisdiction, and you are all facing civil rights violations. Test me. The standoff crackled with tension. Neighbors pressed closer, phone cameras recording every second. Someone in the crowd shouted, "Get them, Agent Daniels." Renee kept her gun trained on the threatening officer while calling out, "Arya, baby, come to me now." Arya scrambled up from where Clay had pushed her, running to press against her mother's side. Renee's free arm wrapped around her daughter protectively, feeling her small body shaking with sobs. "It is okay, baby," she murmured. "Mama is here." Then louder to the officers, "Everyone drop your weapons and back away. This is now a federal investigation." "You are out of line, Agent," one of the senior officers called. "This is our jurisdiction. Your jurisdiction ended the second you violated my daughter's civil rights." Renee's voice could have frozen hell itself. "Now here is what is going to happen. I want every body cam recording from every officer present. I want internal affairs here within the hour. And I want every single one of you processed for unlawful use of force." She felt Arya press closer, still trembling. The girl's voice came out small but fierce. "They killed Shadow, Mama. He was just protecting me." "I know, baby." Renee kept her gun steady, her jaw tight. "And they are going to pay for it." More patrol cars were arriving, lights painting the scene in chaos. Renee raised her voice again. "Anyone who does not want to be charged as an accessory needs to step back now, and someone better call your chief because his department just walked into a federal nightmare." Officer Clay, who had pushed Arya, started to back away. His face had gone pale as the reality of their situation sank in. Others followed suit, lowering their weapons. "That is right," Renee said. "Now who wants to be the first to explain why you were harassing a 9-year-old girl on her own property? Or why you opened fire on a family pet without provocation?" The crowd of neighbors had grown larger. Phones recorded from every angle as Renee kept her position, daughter protected behind her, gun unwavering. She could feel Arya's tears soaking into her suit jacket. "Internal affairs," she barked. "Now. And someone better preserve those body cams before they mysteriously malfunction." The officer she had at gunpoint finally lowered his weapon. "This is not over," he growled. "Oh, it is just beginning." Renee's smile was all teeth. "By morning, every news station in the country will be running this story. FBI agent's daughter terrorized by local police." "How is that going to play?" Brenna struggled against his cuffs, face pressed into the grass. "You are making a mistake." "No," Renee said coldly. "You made the mistake. You came onto my property. You threatened my daughter. You killed her dog. Now you get to learn what happens when you pick the wrong family to terrorize." Red and blue lights continued to strobe across the scene. Renee standing guard over her daughter, gun drawn, Brenna cuffed and face down, other officers backing away, neighbors recording everything, and Shadow's body still lying motionless on the blood-stained grass, a silent testament to how quickly an ordinary evening had descended into nightmare. Renee sat in her darkened living room, the clock on the wall ticking past midnight. The house felt wrong without Shadow's protective presence. No clicking of nails on hardwood, no gentle snoring from his bed in the corner. Her service weapon lay on the coffee table, cleaned and loaded, just in case. The events of the evening played on repeat in her mind. The gunshot, Arya's screams, the standoff. Internal affairs had come and gone, taking statements with barely concealed hostility. The local news vans had finally left her front lawn. Now in the hollow quiet, Renee could hear Arya's muffled sobs from upstairs. She had tried to comfort her daughter for hours, but what could you say to a child who had watched police murder her dog? Arya had finally fallen into an exhausted sleep, clutching Shadow's worn leather collar to her chest like a lifeline. The metal tags still jingled softly whenever she moved. Renee's phone buzzed, displaying a number she recognized. Police Chief Roger Martin. Her jaw tightened as she reached for her secondary phone, the one she used for recording sensitive calls. She set it to record and answered the main line. Agent Daniels. Her voice was pure ice. Renee. Martin's tone dripped with false warmth. I wanted to touch base about today's unfortunate incident. Unfortunate incident. Renee's fingers curled into a fist. Your officers trespassed on my property, terrorized my daughter, and executed her dog. Choose your next words carefully, Chief. Now, he chuckled, the sound oily. Let us not be dramatic. Officers responded to a suspicious person call on a 9-year-old black girl playing in her own yard and encountered an aggressive animal. My daughter's trained service dog defending her from armed intruders. Agent Daniels, Martin's fake friendliness cracked slightly. I am trying to handle this internally for everyone's benefit. Department unity is crucial in these situations. Renee leaned forward, voice dropping dangerously low. Unity. You want me to help you cover up civil rights violations against my own child. I am suggesting we handle this professionally. Officer Brenner is a decorated veteran. Officer Brenner is a trigger-happy racist who is going to prison. Be reasonable, Martin pressed. These situations are complex. Perhaps we could discuss this over coffee, find a solution that works for everyone. Renee's free hand clenched so tight her knuckles went white. Are you trying to bribe a federal agent, Chief Martin? Of course not. He sounded wounded. I'm merely suggesting that escalating this could damage everyone involved, your daughter included. Children can be so fragile after trauma. Would it not be better to let her heal quietly? Are you threatening my daughter? Renee's voice could have frozen hell itself. Absolutely not. I am looking out for her best interests. These media circuses can be brutal on young minds. And your career. Surely you do not want this kind of attention. Renee stood, pacing the room like a caged tiger. Let me be crystal clear, Chief. I am not one of your officers you can intimidate into silence. I do not care about department unity or political fallout. The only thing I care about is justice for my daughter. You are making a mistake, Martin warned, dropping all pretense of friendliness. This could get very unpleasant. It already is. Renee's smile was all teeth. I want those body cam videos on my desk by morning. A long pause. There was an equipment malfunction. Unfortunately, no footage was captured. Renee grabbed her laptop, typing rapidly. I watched those cameras recording. Multiple witnesses saw them active. Technical issues happen, Agent Daniels. Sometimes data is lost. She logged into the department's evidence server using her federal credentials. The body cam files from that evening were already gone, deleted less than an hour after the incident. Someone had moved fast to cover their tracks. You are going to regret this obstruction, Chief. Renee's voice was deadly calm. I am coming for every officer involved, every supervisor who helped cover it up, every piece of corruption in your department. I am going to tear it all down. Do not threaten me, Agent. Martin's voice hardened. You are not the only one with powerful friends. I do not need friends. Renee stood at her window, staring into the darkness where Shadow had died. I have the law, and tomorrow I have a press conference where I will show the world exactly what kind of department you are running. Think carefully about your next move, Martin warned. Accidents happen, even to federal agents. Is that your answer? More threats? It is friendly advice. Let this go, Agent Daniels, for everyone's sake. Renee ended the call, setting both phones down carefully. Her hands wanted to shake with rage, but she forced them steady. The recording would be useful later. Martin had practically gift-wrapped his own indictment. She moved to her desk, pulling up her laptop. The deletion of evidence was sloppy, desperate. They had not counted on her technical expertise or federal access. Within minutes, she had the server logs, showing exactly who had ordered the footage erased. A soft whimper from upstairs drew her attention. Arya was having another nightmare. Renee's heart ached. Her baby would carry these scars forever. The sound of gunfire, shadow falling, rough hands pushing her down. No child should have to learn the world's cruelty so young. You shot the wrong dog, Renee whispered into the darkness, her words a solemn vow. These men had mistaken her professional restraint for weakness. They thought federal agent meant paper pusher. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Upstairs, Arya cried out in her sleep. Renee closed her laptop, heading up to comfort her daughter. Tomorrow would bring its own battles. Tonight, she needed to be a mother first. Morning sunlight streamed through the precinct's grimy windows as Renee pushed through the double doors. She had chosen her outfit carefully. Casual blazer, jeans, nothing that screamed federal agent. Let them underestimate her. The front desk sergeant barely glanced up from his crossword puzzle. Can I help you? I need to speak with internal affairs about yesterday's shooting incident. Renee kept her voice neutral, watching his reaction. IA is pretty busy today. He scratched his neck, still not looking at her. Maybe try calling next week. I will wait. She settled into a plastic chair, legs crossed, the picture of patience. Minutes ticked by. Officers shuffled past, some throwing curious glances her way. A few recognized her from yesterday. Their steps quickened, eyes sliding away. Word had spread. After 20 minutes, a heavy-set man in an ill-fitting suit emerged. Mrs. Daniels, I am Lieutenant Parker, Internal Affairs. Follow me. Agent Daniels, she corrected quietly, falling into step behind him. The interview room was small, intentionally uncomfortable. 2 other officers waited inside. Detective Mills, a sharp-faced woman with cold eyes, and Officer Rodriguez, who could not quite hide his nervousness. Parker gestured to a metal chair. Please sit. He shuffled papers importantly. Now about yesterday's incident. Where is the body cam footage? Renee cut straight to the point. Mills leaned forward. As we explained yesterday, there were technical difficulties. I watched those cameras recording. Multiple witnesses have video showing the red lights active. Equipment malfunctions happen, Parker shrugged. Nothing we can do. I want Officers Bruner and Clay suspended pending investigation. Rodriguez shifted uncomfortably. Mills's smile turned sharp. That will not be necessary. Our preliminary review shows they followed department protocol. Protocol. Renee's voice could have cut glass for shooting a child service dog on private property. The animal displayed aggressive behavior. The dog barked once while protecting a 9-year-old from armed strangers in her yard. Parker spread his hands. Listen, we understand you're upset, but our officers have to make split-second decisions. They made the decision to ignore my daughter's legal right to be on her own property. They made the decision to escalate a non-situation into a fatal shooting. And now you are making the decision to cover it up. That is a serious accusation. Mills's eyes narrowed. I would be careful about throwing around terms like cover-up. Why? Because it is true. Renee leaned forward. Let us talk about the deleted footage, the falsified incident reports, the witness intimidation already starting in my neighborhood. Rodriguez wiped sweat from his forehead. Parker's face reddened. Now see here. No, you see here. Renee's voice cut through his bluster. I want those officers suspended. I want the unaltered footage. I want every document related to this incident preserved. Mills actually smirked. Or what? Renee reached slowly into her blazer. The officers tensed until she withdrew her FBI credentials, letting them slam onto the metal table with a sharp crack. Or I launch a federal civil rights investigation that will tear this department apart brick by brick. The smirk vanished from Mills's face. Parker's mouth opened and closed silently. Rodriguez looked ready to faint. That is right. Renee's smile was predatory. You are not just dealing with an angry mother. You are dealing with a federal agent with jurisdiction over civil rights violations, police misconduct, and evidence tampering. Now wait a minute, Parker started. No, you wait. Renee stood, towering over them. Every deleted file, every falsified report, every attempt to obstruct justice just became a federal crime. I can bring in a team that will forensically recover every byte of data you tried to erase. I can subpoena every phone record, every text message, every email showing who ordered this cover-up. Mills found her voice. You cannot just. I can and I will. Renee planted both hands on the table, leaning in. You thought you could sweep this under the rug like every other incident, but you picked the wrong target this time. We should consult with legal, Rodriguez stammered. Good idea, Renee straightened up. Tell them to expect federal subpoenas by end of day, and tell Chief Martin his deletion of evidence is already documented. She gathered her credentials unhurriedly, enjoying the panic spreading across their faces. The power dynamic had shifted completely. They were no longer local cops stonewalling a civilian complaint. They were potential federal defendants watching their careers crumble. I will need those suspensions processed immediately. She moved toward the door. And if one more piece of evidence disappears, I will have FBI cybercrimes here so fast your heads will spin. You are making a mistake, Mills called after her, but the threat in her voice had withered to uncertainty. Renee paused in the doorway. No, you made the mistake. You thought that badge gave you immunity. You thought you could terrorize my child and kill her dog without consequences. She fixed each of them with a cold stare. You thought wrong. The hallway outside was silent as she walked toward the exit, her heels clicking on the linoleum. Officers pressed against walls to let her pass, word of her identity spreading in urgent whispers. She felt their stares on her back, no longer dismissive, now wary and afraid. Through the front doors, down the steps, into the bright morning sun. Only when she reached her car did Renee allow herself to smile. They had played right into her hands, adding federal crimes to their growing list of violations. Now she had the legal authority to dismantle their entire corrupt system. The slow grin spread across her face as she started the engine. They had given her all the ammunition she needed to destroy them. The classroom felt too bright, too loud. Arya sat at her desk, staring at the empty space where her pencil should go. She had not brought any supplies today. She had not wanted to come at all. Whispers floated around her like angry bees. That is her, the girl from the news. My dad says her mom is causing trouble. Did you see the video when she had the gun? Mrs. Henderson's voice cut through the chatter. Class, please open your social studies books to page 94. Arya did not move. The empty desk in front of her blurred as tears threatened to spill. She blinked them back, hard. She would not cry here, not in front of them. Arya, Mrs. Henderson's shadow, fell across her desk. Where are your materials? Do not have them, Arya mumbled, still staring down. You can share with Jessica. The teacher's voice was sugar-sweet, dripping with fake concern. Jessica, please move your desk closer. Jessica hesitated, glancing at her friends. Slowly, reluctantly, she scooted her desk over, keeping as much distance as possible. The screech of metal on tile made Arya flinch. It sounded like Shadow's nails on the driveway when he tried to get up after. She squeezed her eyes shut. Now then, Mrs. Henderson continued. We are discussing current events. Can anyone tell me about an important local news story they have heard recently? Several hands shot up. Arya's stomach clenched. Well, piped up Marcus from the back. My parents were talking about those cops who had to defend themselves. That is not what happened. The words burst from Arya before she could stop them. Her hands were shaking. Mrs. Henderson's smile tightened. Arya, we raise our hands in this classroom. But he is lying. They killed Shadow for no reason. He was just protecting me. That is enough. The teacher's voice turned sharp. This was clearly an unfortunate misunderstanding between law enforcement and... Misunderstanding, Arya stood up so fast her chair toppled backward. The class jumped. They came into my yard. They pointed guns at me. They shot my dog while he was wagging his tail. Young lady, you will not raise your voice. Shadow was all I had left from my dad. Arya's voice cracked. He was my best friend. And they killed him. And you are calling it a misunderstanding. Principal's office now. Mrs. Henderson pointed to the door, her face flushed with anger. Why? Because I am telling the truth. Tears streamed down Arya's cheeks now. They killed him because they were scared of a little black girl in her own yard. That is what my mom says. Out. The teacher's shriek echoed off the walls. Get out of my classroom this instant. Arya grabbed her backpack, hands trembling so badly she could barely hold it. The other kids stared wide-eyed and silent as she stumbled toward the door. "And tell your mother," Mrs. Henderson called after her, "that filling your head with such inflammatory ideas is not helping anyone." Arya slammed the door so hard the windows rattled. 20 minutes later, she sat in the principal's office, listening to words like disruptive behavior and 3-day suspension wash over her. Her mother's voice on the phone was clipped, professional, her work voice, but Arya could hear the fury underneath. The ride home was quiet. Arya pressed her forehead against the cool window, watching suburban houses blur past. "I am sorry," she whispered finally. Renee glanced over. "For what?" "Baby. Getting suspended. Making more trouble." The SUV pulled into their driveway. Renee killed the engine but did not move to get out. "Look at me, Arya." Slowly, Arya turned. Her mother's eyes were fierce with love. "You have nothing to be sorry for. You told the truth. They are the ones who should be sorry for what they did to Shadow, for trying to pretend it did not happen, for punishing you instead of facing what they did wrong. But everyone at school, let them talk." Renee reached over, wiping a tear from Arya's cheek. "We know the truth, and we are going to make sure everyone else knows it too. I miss him so much, Mama." Arya's voice broke. "Every morning I still look for him. I keep thinking I hear his collar jingling." Renee pulled her daughter close, holding her while she sobbed. They sat there in the driveway as the afternoon sun slanted through the trees, casting shadow patterns that looked like paw prints on the dashboard. That night, unable to sleep, Arya crept to the top of the stairs. Her mother's voice drifted up from the kitchen below. "Yes, I have documentation of everything." Renee's tone was intense, focused. Witness statements, phone recordings, social media posts showing the department's changing story. A pause. "No, I want the full investigation detailed. The shooting, the cover-up attempt, the retaliation at her school, all of it." Another pause. Arya inched down a few steps. "Because the public needs to know what really happened. They need to see how these officers treated a 9-year-old girl on her own property. How they killed her service dog without provocation. How the department tried to bury it." Arya could picture her mother pacing, the way she did when building a case. "Tomorrow morning works. Yes, I will send you everything, and thank you. This story needs to be told." The call ended. Arya sat frozen on the stairs, heart pounding. Her mother was taking their fight public. The truth about Shadow would come out. For the first time since that terrible evening, she felt something besides grief. Hope, small but fierce, like a spark in the darkness. The evening news anchor's face filled the TV screen, her expression grave. Tonight's top story. Disturbing footage has emerged of a police shooting that left a child service dog dead and sparked allegations of racial profiling. Arya watched from the couch as the viral video played. Shaky cell phone footage showing Shadow, lying motionless, officers shouting, her own small figure pointing the gun. Her mother's protective embrace appeared next. The confrontation that followed. "That video has now been viewed over 2 million times," the anchor continued. "Justice for Shadow is trending nationwide. FBI Special Agent Renee Daniels claims local police not only killed her daughter's dog without cause, but attempted to cover up evidence of wrongdoing." Renee muted the TV, checking her phone. Her jaw tightened. "What is it?" Arya asked. "Nothing, baby." But Arya caught a glimpse of the screen. A police union Facebook post calling her mother a race-baiting agitator trying to destroy good officers' careers for publicity. The next morning, Renee found all 4 tires of her SUV slashed in the driveway. She stood examining the clean cuts while Arya watched anxiously from the front door. "Should we call the police?" Arya asked. Renee's laugh was bitter. "They are the police, baby." She pulled out her phone, photographing the damage. "But do not worry, this is just more evidence." That afternoon, a manila envelope appeared on their front porch. No postmark, no return address. Inside were photos, surveillance shots of Renee and Arya going about their daily routines, shopping, school drop-off, walking in their neighborhood. On the back of each photo, someone had written in red ink, "Back off." Renee's hands shook as she sealed the photos in an evidence bag. Her FBI training kicked in, documenting everything, securing their home, installing cameras. But her heart raced every time Arya left her sight. That night, she sat at the kitchen table cleaning her service weapon, the porch lights casting harsh shadows through the windows. Arya had finally fallen asleep upstairs, clutching Shadow's old collar. A twig snapped in the darkness outside. Renee froze, listening. Soft footsteps crossed the lawn, too careful to be casual. Moving silently, she switched off the lights and moved to the window. A dark figure crouched by the garden, dressed in black, face obscured. He was placing something near the foundation. Small, metallic, with wires. Renee's blood ran cold. An explosive device. She moved fast, sliding the back door open without a sound. The figure was so focused on his task, he did not notice her approach until her gun pressed against the base of his skull. "Hands where I can see them," she whispered. Slowly he tensed, then laughed. A familiar sound. "You really want to point a gun at a fellow officer? Agent Daniels, badge number now. Come on, we're just trying to send a message." Renee brought her knee up hard into his kidney. He gasped, dropping to all fours. A kick sent him sprawling onto his back. In the porch light she recognized him. Officer Martinez from Brenner's squad. "That is assaulting an officer," he wheezed. "No." Renee grabbed his throat, pressing her knee into his chest. "That is defending my home from an armed intruder. The device? What is it?" "Just a smoke bomb." He tried to smile, but it came out as a grimace. Little warning about playing with fire. Renee's fist connected with his jaw. Blood sprayed from his split lip. "Badge number," she repeated. "Go to hell." She drove her knuckles into his solar plexus, all his breath left in a whoosh. "Badge number." 4471, he gasped. "Jesus, you are crazy." "No," her voice was ice. "I'm a mother protecting her child from corrupt cops who think they are above the law." She pulled out her phone, snapping photos of his face, his badge, the smoke bomb. "Now you're going to listen carefully." She leaned close, her whisper deadly calm. "I have you on video planting an explosive device, threatening a federal agent. Conspiracy, stalking a minor. I have documented everything. The slashed tires, the photos, the online threats. One call, and your whole department burns. They will never believe. Try me." She pressed harder on his windpipe. "I have spent 15 years building federal cases. I know exactly how to bury you. All of you." Flashing lights appeared at the end of the street. Someone had called the cops. "Your backup is coming," Renee said. "So here is what happens next. You will deny everything, of course, but that badge number is logged. Every move you make, every threat, every accident that happens to me or my daughter, it all traces back to you now. And when this all burns down, you will burn first." She released him, stepping back as patrol cars screeched up. Martinez scrambled to his feet, touching his bloody lip. "You're making a mistake," he spat. "We take care of our own." "No." Renee's smile was razor sharp. "You protect your own. I protect the truth. Now, get off my property before I file charges." He stumbled away just as officers approached, waving them off. Renee watched him go, already composing press releases in her head. By morning, every news outlet would know about the break-in. The department would scramble to contain it, but too late. She looked up at Arya's window, determination hardening in her chest. They had thought killing Shadow would silence them. Instead, they had started a war. And Renee Daniels did not lose wars. The phone in her hand buzzed, her FBI contact wanting an update. The night was just beginning. The county courthouse loomed over Renee, its marble columns casting long shadows in the morning light. She adjusted her blazer, briefcase heavy with evidence, photos, testimonies, forensics from Shadow's shooting. 3 weeks of building an airtight case. Inside, the clerk's expression shifted when Renee presented her civil rights filing. "Oh, Agent Daniels, there seems to be an issue with the system." "What issue?" Renee's voice was flat. "The electronic filing platform is down." The clerk would not meet her eyes. Maintenance might take a few days. Convenient. Renee placed her FBI credentials on the counter. "I will wait." Hours passed in the sterile lobby. Renee's phone buzzed. Emails were not loading. She tried logging in again but got an error message. Account compromised. Her stomach tightened. This was no coincidence. Her personal phone lit up with messages from unknown numbers, photos of her house, her daily routine, Arya's school schedule, then a text. 1423 Oak Grove Lane. Nice place. Shame if something happened to it. Renee's hands shook as she dialed her FBI tech contact. Someone is in my accounts. I need Agent Daniels, the clerk called out. The system is working now, but she shuffled papers nervously. Your filing seems to be missing several required forms. You will need to resubmit. I checked everything myself. Renee flipped through her copies. This is deliberate interference. Please lower your voice, Agent Daniels. Renee caught sight of Chief Martin watching from the second floor, his smile cold. The message was clear. They could block her at every turn. That evening she drove home along dark suburban streets, checking her mirrors for tails. Arya was at a friend's house, safer there, given the threats. The house looked quiet. Normal. Too normal. Inside, Renee swept for bugs, checked the security cameras. Everything seemed clear, but her instincts screamed danger. She had learned to trust those instincts over 15 years of fieldwork. At midnight, the first smoke bomb crashed through her living room window. The canister hissed, spewing thick gray clouds. Renee dropped low, grabbing her gun from its holster. More crashes upstairs. They were coming from multiple angles. Her eyes burned as she crawled toward the stairs. Thank God Arya was not home. The smoke was everywhere now, but she could hear heavy boots on her back deck. A figure in tactical gear burst through the kitchen door. Renee fired a warning shot past his head. He dove for cover, returning fire. Bullets splintered her cabinets. She rolled behind the kitchen island, choking on smoke. At least 3 intruders, maybe more, all with police-era tactical gear. This was no random attack. "Federal agent," she shouted. "You are assaulting a federal officer." Another smoke bomb bounced down the stairs. In the chaos, a masked figure charged her position. Renee met him with a brutal front kick, sending him sprawling. His gun clattered away. They grappled on the floor, trading vicious blows. He was strong, but Renee had rage on her side. She drove her elbow into his throat, ripped off his mask, and found herself staring into Officer Rodriguez's face. One of Brenner's closest friends on the force. Police! Freeze! Flashlight beams cut through the smoke. Patrol officers swarmed in, guns drawn. Rodriguez began screaming. She attacked me. I was responding to a disturbance call, and she just started shooting. Renee tried to speak but could not stop coughing. Hands grabbed her roughly, slamming her face first into the wall. Cold handcuffs bit into her wrists. "Renee Daniels," a familiar voice drawled. "Chief Martin. You are under arrest for assaulting an officer." "This was a setup," she wheezed. "They attacked my home. That is not what the evidence shows." Martin's smile was audible. "We received multiple 911 calls about gunshots. Officer Rodriguez responded alone, announced himself, and you attacked him without provocation. We have his body cam footage to prove it." Renee laughed bitterly. Convenient how those cameras work when you want them to. They dragged her outside where news vans were already arriving. Perfect timing. She caught glimpses of reporters, cameras flashing. The headlines would write themselves, "FBI agent attacks local cop." Blood dripped from her split knuckles as they shoved her into a patrol car. Through the window, she watched Rodriguez playing up his injuries for the cameras, Chief Martin giving grave statements about disturbing behavior and mental instability. Her phone buzzed one final time before they took it. A text from her FBI partner. "Got everything on satellite. Whole attack recorded. Hang tight." Renee allowed herself a small smile as the patrol car pulled away. They thought they had trapped her. Instead, they had walked right into her net. The satellite footage would show everything: the coordinated attack, the planted evidence, the false arrest. Every move they made to silence her only gave her more ammunition, and now she had proof of a criminal conspiracy reaching to the top of the department. The patrol car turned toward the station, red and blue lights painting the night. Renee tasted blood from her split lip, but the pain felt like victory. They had tried to bury her. Instead, they had planted the seeds of their own destruction. Through the cage partition, she heard the officers up front discussing charges, building their false narrative. Let them talk. The truth was already spreading far beyond their reach to contain it. The station's brutalist architecture came into view. Renee straightened her shoulders, head high. They thought this was an ending. She knew it was just the beginning. The holding cell's fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as Renee sat motionless on the metal bench. Her blazer was torn. Dried blood crusted around her knuckles. The concrete walls pressed in, but she maintained her silence, ignoring the taunts from passing officers. "Not so tough now, are you, Agent?" Officer Clay sneered through the bars. Renee did not blink, did not twitch. Her stillness seemed to unnerve him more than any response could have. Her thoughts drifted to Arya, safe with Mrs. Johnson next door. The elderly neighbor had been watching through her window when they dragged Renee out in cuffs. "I will take care of her," Mrs. Johnson had promised in a trembling voice. "I saw what really happened. Those monsters." The holding cell door clanged open. Chief Martin swaggered in with 2 detectives. "Ready to confess? Make this easier on yourself?" Renee's silence filled the cell like smoke. "Your career is over," Martin continued. "Assaulting an officer, discharging a firearm within city limits, resisting arrest. The FBI will not want anything to do with you." "Chief Martin," a sharp voice cut through the jail corridor. Heavy footsteps approached. Assistant Director Thompson from the Atlanta FBI field office strode into view, flanked by 4 agents in tactical gear. His badge gleamed under the harsh lights. "This prisoner is being transferred to federal custody immediately." Thompson's voice could have frozen hell. "Step aside. Now wait just a minute," Martin sputtered. "This is our jurisdiction. This is a federal agent who was attacked in her home by corrupt officers under your command." Thompson stepped closer, towering over the police chief. "Your jurisdiction ended the moment your men committed multiple felonies against her." One of the FBI agents unlocked Renee's cell. Another handed her a fresh jacket. "You cannot do this," Martin protested weakly. "We already have." Thompson smiled without warmth. Agent Chen, a young FBI tech specialist, stepped forward holding up a laptop. "We recovered everything, sir. Satellite footage of the coordinated attack on Agent Daniels's home, cell phone records showing the conspiracy," and she paused for effect. "The deleted body cam footage from Shadow's shooting." The color drained from Martin's face. The tech turned the laptop screen toward them. The footage was crystal clear. Shadow barking. Officer Brenner drawing his weapon with a smirk. The muzzle flash. The dog's yelp cut short. Then Brenner's voice thick with satisfaction. "One less mutt in the neighborhood." A chuckle. "Should have kept that thing on a leash. These people never learn." The racial slur that followed echoed in the holding cell's silence. More footage played. Brenner and other officers planning the attack on Renee's home. Rodriguez volunteering to teach that Fed a lesson. Martin himself ordering the body cam footage destroyed. "Interesting thing about digital evidence," Agent Chen said. "It never really goes away." "Not if you know where to look." Thompson handed Renee a USB drive. "Everything is here. The footage, the conspiracy, all of it. The U.S. Attorney's Office is already drafting indictments." Renee's fingers closed around the drive. Her first words since the arrest came out soft but razor sharp. "Now we ruin their lives." Martin backed away, sweating. His empire of corruption was crumbling before his eyes. "You do not understand what you're doing?" "Oh, I understand perfectly." Renee stepped out of the cell, straightening her jacket. Every bruise on her body felt like a badge of honor. "You thought you could bury this. Bury me. Instead, you buried yourselves." The FBI team escorted her through the station. Officers who had mocked her hours earlier now shrank back from her path. News cameras flashed outside, capturing her emergence, head high, unbroken. Her phone buzzed with a text from Mrs. Johnson. "Arya is asking for you. She is scared, but safe." Renee climbed into Thompson's SUV, the USB drive heavy with justice in her hand. They had tried to break her spirit, silence her rage, make her disappear. Instead, they had given her everything she needed to tear their corrupt system down to its roots. The SUV pulled away from the station. In the rearview mirror, Renee watched Chief Martin being led away in handcuffs, reporters swarming. More arrests would follow. The department would be gutted, reformed, rebuilt from the ground up. She touched the dried blood on her knuckles, remembering Shadow's soft fur, Arya's tears, the sound of breaking glass and smoke bombs. They had brought this war to her door, threatened her child, killed an innocent dog. Now they would learn the price of their arrogance. The USB drive pulsed in her palm like a beating heart. Soon its contents would spread across every news network, social media platform, and federal investigation. The truth would pour out like a flood, washing away decades of corruption and abuse of power. "Take me to my daughter," Renee said quietly. As they drove through the pre-dawn streets, she felt the weight of the evidence in her hand. It was not justice for Shadow anymore. It was justice for every victim of police brutality, every family terrorized, every truth buried beneath badges and lies. The sky was beginning to lighten, painting the world in shades of gray and promise. Renee's eyes were cold and clear as she watched the city wake up to its day of reckoning. The Atlanta Federal Building's press room hummed with tension. Camera crews jostled for position. Reporters checked microphones, and satellite trucks lined the street outside. Renee stood backstage reviewing her notes one last time. "Ready?" Thompson asked, adjusting his tie. Renee nodded, her FBI badge gleaming against her dark suit. The bruises from her arrest had faded to yellow shadows, battle scars from a war she was about to win. "Live in 3, 2, 1, the stage manager pointed. Renee strode to the podium, her heels clicking against the hardwood. Camera shutters snapped like lightning. She placed the USB drive carefully beside the microphone, its presence more threatening than any weapon. "Good morning. I am Special Agent Renee Daniels of the FBI's Atlanta field office." Her voice carried clear and strong. "2 weeks ago, my 9-year-old daughter watched police officers murder her dog in our front yard. When she asked why, they pointed guns at her. When I intervened, they attacked my home. When I demanded justice, they tried to bury the truth." She plugged in the drive. The screen behind her flickered to life. "Today, that truth comes to light." The footage began to play. Shadow's bark echoed through the press room. Officer Brenner's face filled the screen, his smirk visible as he drew his weapon. The gunshot made several reporters flinch. Then came his laughter, his slurs, his casual cruelty. Gasps rippled through the crowd as more footage rolled. The conspiracy in the police station, the coordinated attack on Renee's home, Chief Martin ordering evidence destroyed. Every damning moment crystal clear, undeniable. This is not just about one dog or one family. Renee's words cut through the shocked murmurs. This is about a system that protects its worst actors. A department that responds to questions with violence. Officers who believe their badges shield them from consequences. She held up a thick stack of documents. "We have uncovered similar incidents spanning 20 years. Excessive force, false arrests, evidence tampering, racial profiling, all buried by the same leadership that tried to silence me." The reporters erupted with questions. Renee pointed to a local journalist she recognized. "Agent Daniels, what actions are being taken against the officers involved?" "The U.S. Attorney's Office is pursuing federal civil rights charges against Officer Brenner, Officer Clay, and 6 other officers. Chief Martin faces multiple counts of conspiracy and obstruction of justice." She paused. "Additionally, the Department of Justice has opened a pattern and practice investigation into the entire department." More hands shot up. She chose a national network correspondent. "Is it true Chief Martin has already submitted his resignation?" "Yes. As of this morning." Renee's expression remained neutral. "Officer Brenner has been suspended without pay, pending the outcome of both criminal and internal investigations." Social media exploded as clips from the press conference spread. Justice for Shadow trended nationwide. Local news stations interrupted regular programming to cover the story. Protesters began gathering outside police headquarters, their signs demanding accountability. A reporter from the back called out, "What do you say to those who claim this is an attack on law enforcement?" Renee leaned into the microphone. "Good officers should welcome accountability. Bad officers fear it. This is not an attack on law enforcement. It is a defense of what law enforcement should be." The questions continued for an hour. Renee answered each one with measured precision, laying out the evidence piece by damning piece. By the time she stepped away from the podium, the damage was irreversible. That evening, she sat in her living room, watching the fallout unfold across every news channel. Arya curled beside her on the couch, finally sleeping peacefully for the first time since Shadow's death. Officer Brenner's booking photo dominated the screens. His smug expression had cracked, revealing the fear beneath. Protesters filled the streets, their chants for justice echoing through the city. The police union's attempts to spin the story fell flat against the weight of irrefutable evidence. "Mom," Arya stirred, blinking at the TV. "Is it really over?" Renee stroked her daughter's hair. "The hard part is over. Now we make sure it never happens again." On screen, more officers were being led away in handcuffs. The department's internal affairs division had been completely dissolved. State police were stepping in to provide temporary oversight while a complete restructuring took place. Chief Martin's resignation letter scrolled across the bottom of the screen, each word dripping with false regret. His career was finished, his pension gone. His legacy would be one of corruption and cowardice. Brenner's face appeared again, his sneer frozen in time. The same expression he had worn while pointing a gun at a 9-year-old girl. Now he faced years in federal prison, his badge and freedom stripped away by his own recorded words. Renee muted the TV as her phone buzzed with messages. Other officers' wives thanking her for exposing the truth. Civilian victims of police brutality sharing their stories. FBI colleagues offering support and congratulations. Shadow's collar still hung by the door, a reminder of why this fight mattered. The tag caught the evening light, spinning slowly like a compass needle pointing toward justice. Local news showed aerial footage of the protests growing larger. Signs bearing Shadow's picture and Arya's story mixed with countless others. The city had woken up, and its anger would not be easily silenced. Midnight crept over the suburb, streets empty after the day's protests. Renee sat at her kitchen table reviewing case files under lamplight. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. The text message glowed ominously. "Drop it or your girl will not wake up next time." Her heart stopped. Training kicked in. She drew her weapon, took the stairs 3 at a time. The hallway stretched forever. Arya's door stood slightly ajar. Renee's hand trembled as she pushed it open. Moonlight spilled through the open window, curtains dancing in the breeze. Arya's bed was empty, covers disturbed. "Arya," she whispered urgently. A soft murmur from the bathroom answered. Arya brushing her teeth. Relief flooded through Renee, but her instincts screamed danger. She scanned the room methodically, FBI training guiding her movements. The window should not be open. They always locked it at night. Fresh mud marked the windowsill. Bootprints on the carpet led to Arya's bed. Renee approached slowly, gun raised. Something moved under the covers. She yanked back the blanket. A diamondback rattlesnake coiled there, head raised, fangs bared. Renee's reaction was instant. She brought her heel down hard on the snake's head before it could strike, crushing its skull against the bed frame. The body thrashed, then went still. "Mom!" Arya appeared in the doorway. "What is wrong? Stay back." Renee grabbed her daughter, checking her for bites or injuries. "Are you okay? Did anyone come in here?" "No, I was just in the bathroom." Arya's eyes widened at the dead snake. "How did that get in?" Renee's jaw clenched. "Go to my room. Lock the door. Do not come out until I call you." She checked the window frame, jimmied from outside. The bootprints in the mud led toward the woods behind their house. Fresh. They could not have gone far. Renee grabbed her tactical vest and radio from the gun safe. "This is Special Agent Daniels requesting immediate backup at my location. Home invasion in progress. Suspects believed armed." The woods loomed dark and thick. Renee clicked on her weapon-mounted light, following the tracks. Her breath came steady, controlled. Rage burned cold in her chest. 20 yards in, a twig snapped to her left. She spun, light revealing a flash of movement. 2 figures in dark clothing ducked behind trees. "Federal agent, show your hands." They responded with gunfire. Bullets splintered bark near her head. Renee dove behind a fallen log, returning fire. The muzzle flashes gave away their positions. One charged her position while the other laid covering fire. Amateur move. Renee waited until the last second, then rolled out to meet him. His punch went wide. She grabbed his arm, used his momentum to slam him face first into a tree trunk. His mask came partly loose. She recognized him. Officer Phillips from Brenner's squad. The second attacker tried to flank her. Renee kicked Phillips's knee sideways, dropping him with a scream. She spun to face the new threat. This one knew how to fight. They traded blows in the darkness, neither gaining advantage. He landed a solid hit to her ribs. She answered with an elbow to his throat. Phillips struggled to his feet, reaching for a dropped weapon. Renee drew faster. The shot echoed through the trees, taking him in the thigh. He collapsed, howling. The other man used the distraction to tackle her. They went down hard, rolling through dead leaves. His hands found her throat. She drove her thumb into his eye through the mask. He reared back. Renee brought her knee up into his groin, then hammered her forehead into his nose. The mask came off. Officer Martinez, another of Brenner's loyalists. She locked him in a chokehold, squeezing until he went limp. Zip ties from her vest secured both men. She dragged them out of the woods one at a time, recording everything on her phone. Special Agent Daniels, she spoke clearly for the video. Time is 0047 hours. I have detained 2 armed suspects who broke into my home and planted a venomous snake in my daughter's bed. Suspects are identified as Officers James Phillips and Michael Martinez of the local police department. She pulled off their masks, documenting their faces. Martinez was conscious now, spitting blood and threats. You are dead. You and your kid both. Renee grabbed his broken nose, twisting until he screamed. Threatening a federal agent and her family. That is another charge to add to the list. Phillips moaned, clutching his bleeding leg. We were just supposed to scare you, Brenner said. Shut up. Martinez tried to kick him. Oh no, please continue. Renee kept recording. Tell me exactly what Brenner said. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Red and blue lights painted the trees. Phillips started talking faster, desperate to cut a deal. Martinez cursed him, but the damage was done. Renee's backup arrived. FBI tactical teams, not local police. They secured the scene as she narrated everything for the official record. Evidence techs photographed the boot prints, the snake, the bullet holes in the trees. The arrests were by the book, everything documented. No loose ends. No way for them to squirm out of this one. Arya watched from her window as they loaded Phillips and Martinez into separate vehicles. Renee had taught her daughter well. Even scared, she had followed protocol perfectly. The snake's body went into an evidence bag. The techs found more ammunition in the woods, all matching department-issued rounds. Martinez's phone contained texts from Brenner himself, ordering the attack. Renee checked her own phone. The threatening text had come from a burner number, but they would trace it. They always did. One way or another, Brenner would answer for this too. The last police car pulled away, leaving them alone in the quiet night. There would be more paperwork, more interviews, more charges to file. But for now, Renee just held her daughter close, grateful for the training that had kept them both alive. The courtroom hummed with tension as Renee took the witness stand. Her FBI badge gleamed at her hip, a silent reminder of her authority. She had worn her sharpest suit, charcoal gray, crisp white shirt, professional, intimidating. Officer Brenner sat at the defense table, shoulders rigid in his dress uniform. His lawyer shuffled papers, avoiding her gaze. Please state your name and occupation for the record, the prosecutor began. Special Agent Renee Daniels, Federal Bureau of Investigation, Atlanta Field Office. Her voice carried clear and cold through the packed gallery. Journalists scribbled notes. Community activists filled the back rows wearing Justice for Shadow shirts. Agent Daniels, please describe the events of May 15th. Renee recounted everything with clinical precision. The shooting, the standoff, the cover-up attempts, the snake in Arya's bed. Her testimony was methodical. Each word another nail in Brenner's coffin. The defense attorney rose, straightening his tie. Agent Daniels, is it not true your daughter has a history of behavioral issues? Objection. The prosecutor jumped up. Relevance? Goes to credibility of the witness, Your Honor. The child's mental state is central to our defense. The judge frowned. I will allow it, but tread carefully. My daughter has no such history. Renee stated flatly. Really, the defense attorney pulled out a file. School records show multiple incidents of fighting, talking back to teachers. You mean standing up to bullies and calling out racism? Renee's voice could have frozen hell. My daughter is a straight A student who watched your client murder her dog in cold blood. Is it not possible she provoked the situation? Perhaps Shadow was acting aggressive. Shadow was a trained therapy dog. The only aggression came from your client and his partner. The attorney changed tactics. Agent Daniels, as a single mother with a demanding career, how much time do you actually spend with your daughter? Murmurs rippled through the gallery. The prosecutor objected again. Sustained. The judge glared at the defense. Counsel, stick to relevant questions. Let me rephrase. The attorney smiled thinly, given Arya's obvious emotional instability. My daughter, Renee cut in, showed more stability that night than your armed client who shot a child's pet and then tried to cover it up. Would you like to discuss emotional instability, counselor? Because I have new evidence about Officer Brenner's state of mind. The prosecutor approached the bench with a USB drive. Your Honor, we would like to enter this recently recovered footage as evidence. The defense attorney sputtered protests, but the judge allowed it. A screen lowered from the ceiling. The video showed Officer Tim Clay, Brina's partner, drunk at a bar after the shooting. He bragged to other cops, not realizing someone was recording on a phone. You should have seen Brenner light that dog up, Clay slurred. Been wanting to do that for months. Cleaning up the streets, right? Those people need to learn their place. The jury shifted uncomfortably. Several people gasped at the racial slur that followed. That is right, Clay continued on screen. Kyle said it perfect. We are taking back this neighborhood one house at a time. Next time maybe they will think twice about living here. The video continued, showing Clay describe other incidents of harassment, racial profiling, and evidence tampering. Each word dug Brina's grave deeper. When it ended, silence filled the courtroom. The defense attorney looked ill. Agent Daniels, the prosecutor asked, did you investigate these other incidents? Yes, we found multiple complaints buried by internal affairs. Officer Brenner had 17 excessive force reports filed against him in the past year alone, all involving minorities, all mysteriously dismissed. She produced more documents, text messages, emails, body cam footage that had not been completely erased. A pattern emerged of systematic harassment and corruption. This was not about a dog, Renee stated. This was about power, about terrorizing people who looked like my daughter, about a badge being used as a weapon. Brenner's face had turned purple. His hands clenched the table. That is a lie, he exploded, jumping up. You people always play the victim. That mongrel was dangerous. Officer Brenner, the judge banged his gavel. Sit down. But Brenner was beyond control. You want to talk about cleaning streets? Someone should have cleaned you out years ago. You and that little. He spat a vicious racial slur. The courtroom erupted. Bailiffs rushed forward as Brenner lunged toward the witness stand, spittle flying. Order. Order in the court. The judge's gavel cracked like gunshots. The bailiffs wrestled Brenner down. He thrashed, screaming obscenities and threats. His lawyer buried his face in his hands. Renee had not moved an inch. She watched Brenner's meltdown with cold satisfaction, knowing every second was being recorded. His true nature exposed at last, caught on camera just like Shadow's murder. When order was finally restored, Brenner sat in restraints, chest heaving. His career was over, his freedom soon to follow. Everything he had hidden behind his badge lay bare before judge and jury. The prosecutor rose. No further questions, Your Honor. Renee stepped down from the witness stand, heels clicking on marble. She passed the defense table without a glance, spine straight as steel. The evidence was insurmountable now. Brenner's own words had sealed his fate. Justice was coming, not just for Shadow, but for every victim of his badge. Behind her, the jury's faces showed all she needed to know. Sometimes the guilty convicted themselves. The courthouse steps buzzed with reporters as Renee checked her phone again. The jury had been deliberating for hours, but something felt wrong. Her FBI instincts screamed danger. She scanned the crowd, noting unmarked police vehicles with tinted windows. Officers she did not recognize lingered at the perimeter. Too many of them, too casual in their positioning. Miss Daniels, any comment on the delayed verdict? A reporter thrust a microphone at her. No comment. Renee kept walking, her hand near her holster. The hairs on her neck stood up. A commotion erupted inside the courthouse. Shouts, running footsteps. Her phone buzzed, a security alert. Her stomach dropped as she read the message. Brenner had escaped custody during transport to holding. 2 guards down, 3 officers missing from their posts. An inside job. Clear the area, Renee shouted, drawing her weapon. FBI, everyone back. The crowd scattered as shots rang out. Bullets pinged off concrete. Renee dove behind a pillar, heart racing. Through the chaos, she glimpsed Brenner being hustled into one of the unmarked cars by officers in tactical gear. She fired twice, shattering the back window, but the car peeled away. Other vehicles moved to block her pursuit, a coordinated escape plan. Her phone rang. The security company monitoring her house. The silent alarm had been triggered. Arya was home with the babysitter. No, no, no! Renee sprinted to her SUV, tires squealing as she raced through traffic. She called for backup but knew Brenner's crew would jam communications. This was personal now. Night had fallen by the time she reached her street. The house was dark, too dark. The babysitter's car was gone. Renee drew her weapon and night vision scope, approaching silently. The back door hung open. Inside, furniture lay overturned. Signs of struggle. Arya, she whispered. Baby, are you here? A floorboard creaked upstairs. Then Arya's scream pierced the silence. Renee bounded up the stairs 3 at a time, weapon ready. The hallway stretched dark before her. A shadow moved. She fired, plaster exploding beside Brina's head as he ducked into Arya's room. Mommy! Arya's voice was terrified. I am here, baby. Stay down. Renee pressed forward, scanning doorways. A fist shot out, knocking her gun away. Brenner lunged from the darkness, tackling her against the wall. They crashed through Arya's bedroom door in a tangle of limbs. Brenner's hands found her throat. His eyes blazed with hatred. Should have stayed down, he snarled. Should have known your place. Renee drove her knee up, breaking his grip. They rolled across the floor, trading savage blows. Her FBI training met his police tactics in brutal close-quarters combat. A lamp shattered. The dresser splintered. Framed photos crashed down as they slammed each other into walls. Blood flew from split lips and broken noses. Brenner was stronger, but Renee was faster. She landed crushing strikes to his ribs, his throat, his groin. He howled in pain and rage. You ruined everything. He caught her arm, twisting until something popped. My career! My life! You did that yourself! Renee gasped through the pain. She headbutted him, feeling cartilage crunch, but Brenner absorbed the blow. He caught her next punch and used his weight to drive her down. His knee pinned her chest as his hands locked around her throat again. Time to teach you and that brat some respect, he growled, squeezing. Black spots danced in Renee's vision. She clawed at his face but could not break free. Her lungs screamed for air. Get off my mommy. Arya stood in the doorway, Renee's backup pistol steady in her small hands, just like Renee had taught her at the range. Renee's head snapped up. You little. The gunshot was deafening in the confined space. Brenner jerked as the bullet tore through his shoulder. His grip loosened. Renee surged up, throwing him off. She scrambled for her fallen weapon as Brenner staggered to his feet, blood streaming down his arm. Federal agent, she wheezed, aiming center mass. On your knees now. Sirens wailed in the distance, her backup finally arriving. Brenner swayed, looking from Renee to Arya with pure hatred. He was going to hurt you, Arya whispered, the gun trembling in her grip. He was going to hurt you. Drop it, Brenner, Renee ordered. It is over. He took one step forward. Renee's finger tightened on the trigger, but blood loss and shock took their toll. Brenner's legs buckled and he collapsed, cursing them both as consciousness faded. Renee kicked his weapons away and quickly cuffed him. Only then did she turn to Arya, who still stood frozen with the pistol raised. Baby, give me the gun, she said softly. You're safe now. I have got you. Arya's fingers uncurled slowly. The pistol clattered to the floor as she fell into her mother's arms, shaking. He was going to hurt you, she repeated against Renee's shoulder. Like Shadow. I could not let him. Shh. Renee held her close, hearing boots thundering up the stairs as FBI tactical teams secured the house. You did good, baby. You did so good. I am right here. They sank to the floor together, holding each other as red and blue lights painted the walls. In the distance, more sirens approached. Bernaire lay unconscious and cuffed, his blood seeping into the carpet, his reign of terror finally truly over. The street erupted in camera flashes as paramedics wheeled Brenner out on a stretcher. His shoulder wound had been stabilized, but his voice echoed through the neighborhood, unhinged and raging. It is all a setup, he screamed, thrashing against the restraints. They are working together. The whole system is corrupt. FBI agents flank the ambulance, weapons ready. They had found 3 more corrupt officers waiting in vehicles nearby. Brenner's escape team now in custody themselves. The magnitude of the conspiracy was still unfolding. Renee stood on her porch, holding Arya close as reporters shouted questions. The girl had not spoken since the shooting, her small frame still trembling against her mother's side. Agent Daniels, will you comment on Officer Brenner's escape attempt? Is it true your daughter shot him? Were other officers involved in the conspiracy? Renee raised her hand for silence. The crowd stilled, microphones extended. She looked down at Arya, who nodded slightly. Permission to tell their story. Tonight, Renee began, her voice carrying across the lawn. A convicted officer tried to silence us through violence. He failed. But this was never about just one bad cop. This is about a system that protected him, that emboldened him, that looked the other way while he terrorized minorities in our community. She gestured to her home, windows broken, doors splintered. They tried to intimidate us. They killed my daughter's dog. They threatened her life. And when we fought back legally, they tried to bury the evidence. Camera shutters clicked rapidly. Live trucks transmitted her words across the nation. But we have proof now. Recordings, documents, testimony from officers who could not stomach the corruption anymore. This goes beyond Brenner. The chief, the DA, senior officers. They all played a part in covering up racial violence. That ends tonight. Arya squeezed her mother's hand as Renee continued. Tomorrow, I will present evidence to the federal grand jury, showing how deep this conspiracy runs. Every officer who helped Brenner escape, every official who deleted body cam footage, every supervisor who buried complaints from minority citizens. They will all face justice. More questions erupted, but Renee raised her voice over them. To the good officers watching, and I know you're out there, it is time to speak up. Help us clean house. Help us rebuild trust. To the corrupt ones, turn yourselves in because we are coming for you, either way. She turned to go inside, then paused. One more thing. To the family who made that first racist call about my daughter playing in her own yard, the call that started all this. We have your number. Expect a visit from the Civil Rights Division. The press conference played on every channel for days. Tips flooded in from officers tired of the corruption. Internal Affairs found decades of buried complaints. The police union's power crumbled as evidence mounted. 2 weeks later, Renee sat in the courtroom as the judge delivered Brenner's sentence. The jury had taken only 3 hours to find him guilty on all counts for the attempted murder of a federal agent, conspiracy to obstruct justice, civil rights violations, and criminal corruption. The judge intoned, "This court sentences you to life in prison without possibility of parole." Brenner stayed silent this time, deflated as officers led him away. His conspiracy had crumbled. The chief resigned in disgrace. The DA faced federal charges. Over a dozen officers were indicted. But it was not until a month later that Arya finally found her peace. She asked to visit Shadow's grave, her first time since the shooting. They went at dawn when the cemetery lay quiet under purple skies. Renee watched her daughter kneel beside the small marker. Shadow's old collar lay there, caked with dried mud. Arya pulled something from her pocket, a new dog tag freshly engraved. "I got this for him," she said softly. The first words she had spoken about that night. Because he protected me, and because we protected each other. She hung the tag on the collar. The metal caught the rising sun. Justice served. Renee placed a hand on her shoulder, feeling the strength there. Gone was the frightened girl who had watched her dog die. In her place stood someone stronger, someone who had faced evil and helped defeat it. "Do you think he would be proud of us?" Arya asked. "Shadow?" Renee smiled. "Baby, he was always proud of you. And so am I." Arya stood, brushing grass from her knees. "Can we get another dog someday? Not to replace Shadow, but," Renee promised, "there is a shelter downtown doing good work. We could visit." They walked together through the cemetery as dawn painted the sky in golds and pinks. Birds called from the trees. A gentle breeze carried the scent of morning glory flowers. Arya's steps were lighter now, her shoulders straight. The nightmares would take time to fade, but healing had begun for both of them. Behind them, Shadow's new tag glinted in the sunrise. Justice had been served, not just for him, but for every victim of corruption and racism their fight had exposed. The system was changing, slowly but surely. Mother and daughter reached their car just as the sun cleared the horizon. A new day breaking, a fresh start. I hope you enjoyed that story. Please share it with your friends and subscribe so that you do not miss out on the next one. In the meantime, I have handpicked 2 stories for you that I think you will enjoy. Have a great day.